Probably should have told Cookie to go back and search the archives. Just find 2 or 3 examples of me in the months prior to the election predicting to you the unemployment rate would magically end up below 8% right before the election. I predicted that for at least a year, and I was able to make it accurately because I knew that this regime is filled with fraudulent fraudsters and liars and people filled with deceit. There's nothing real in this regime other than their ideology. The reason why the unemployment rate would end up below 8% is because historically, there's some statistic out there that no incumbent president had ever been reelected with the unemployment rate at 7.9 or 8% or higher. And the magic number was going to be 8%. And I predicted for a year, casually predicted it and pointedly predicted that the unemployment rate would end up below 8%. And when the unemployment rate, the month before the election came out, I reminded everybody that, and I'm sure you remember me predicting this. Now, there's a story, John Crudell, in the New York Post today. Crudell, he's one of their economics, or probably the economics editor at the New York Post, and he's been in touch with a man who worked for the census, who it turns out does the monthly household survey for the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and that monthly household survey for BLS is where we get the monthly jobless rate. And that man that Crudell talked to says that he was told by higher-ups to just make up numbers, to say he had surveyed more households than he actually had. And it is highly possible that this guy alone might have made up enough numbers to have affected the jobless rate. Now, we noted at the time, in August of 2012, it was at 8.1%. And it went down from that to 7.8% in September, just in time for the real start of the 2012 campaign. By the time you get to September is when the low information voters start paying attention. And they dialed in and they heard the unemployment rate. And by the way, there was a attachment to that number. It was the lowest unemployment rate since Obama had been inaugurated. It wasn't just that it was now magically below 8%. It was that it was an all-time low for Obama. And you remember back, Jack Welch, the former CEO of GE, said the same thing. He even tweeted, unbelievable job numbers. These Chicago guys will do anything. And he caught holy heck from the drive-by medias. I mean, they were all over Welch, and he didn't back down from it. And he and I were both right. Now, we've got to remember that one of the things that Obama did early on in his tenure was to put the census under the control of the White House. And people were puzzled why he would bother to do that. And maybe now we know exactly why. And as Jack Welch and I both said back last fall, but I want to remind you, I was predicting this for months prior. Now, I didn't pound my fist and make a direct, maybe I did a couple times. My predictions were casual. You know, in the midst of casual conversation, I said, did you watch that unemployment rate? Magically, it's going to end up below 8%. Right? So I remember making that prognostication several times. Now, we pointed out, folks, Welch and I both, that the economy, for that number to drop from 8.1 to 7.8, don't forget, nothing was changing. The number of people joining the people in the out-of-work labor force was continuing to climb. The universe of jobs available was shrinking because people were leaving the job market. The labor force participation rate was shrinking, and there was no way with people losing jobs and jobs being eliminated, that unemployment was magically down because of job creation. It was not possible. The economy, we made this point at the time, the economy would need to be growing at a breakneck pace for unemployment to drop to 7.8% from 8. Actually, it was 8.3 in July, and then 8.1, and then down to 7.8. And now we know that it wasn't the case at all. The GDP was miserable in the fall of 2012. There was no job growth because there was no economic growth. Now there's a bunch of companion stories. Well, no, just look at, they lied about it, folks. It's not just that they lied about that, for crying out loud. Let's look at Obamacare and all the lies about that. Benghazi swinging into the election. The lies taking place about that it's a poor sap that did a video was responsible for what happened. Same time, the IRS took out 500 Tea Party organizations to swing an election. The IRS, also being run from the White House, we've learned, did not grant tax-exempt status to 500 Tea Party organizations. We know all of this. We got the Obamacare fraud about you being able to keep your policy and your doctors. All of that was said to you falsely so you'd vote for Obama twice. He was even throwing in the fact you get your premium would go down $2,500. I mean, these are serial lies. These are not standard, ordinary, just everyday political lies, misstatements. These are the result of a calculated deceit.